Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for another open text webinar. Today's webinar is titled Insights from RSA Insurance Group, Navigating the Complexities of Performance Testing. My name is Grace Bickerstaff. I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager for OpenText, and I'll be your host today. I have placed today's agenda on the screen, so please feel free to use it and follow along. I am pleased to introduce our awesome speakers today. We have Donald Stewart, Performance Test Engineering Lead at RSA Insurance Group, and then we also have David McLeish, who is the Product Manager for Performance Engineering at OpenText, but I will let them do their short introductions when we start shortly. Before we begin, I do want to cover a couple of housekeeping items. You'll notice on your console window that there are multiple engagement windows. All of the windows are movable and resizable, so feel free to move them around and get the most out of your desktop space. You can also expand your slide area and maximize it to the full screen by clicking the arrows in the top right corner. We do encourage you to ask questions during the event. You can submit those through the Ask a Question box. We'll have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Just please note that if we cannot capture all of the questions and we run out of time, that we will answer those questions later on via email. For the best viewing experience, we would encourage you to use a high-speed and stable internet connection and close any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause any issues. Events are very bandwidth intensive, so closing any unnecessary browsing tabs and logging off of your VPN will help conserve your bandwidth. If your slides are behind at all, just push the F5 on your keyboard and it will refresh the page. If you need any additional answers on technological issues, then we have a help tool at the bottom of the screen. A recording of the event will be available after the event concludes and can be accessed using the same audience link that we had sent you earlier today. Now that we have everything that we need, I'm going to hand it off to Donald and David for the customer interview.
Hello. So I think probably we should do a quick introduction and then we can get started on our Q&A and our conversation. So hello, I'm David McLeish, Product Manager for the Performance Engineering Load Runner team. Been with OpenText for quite a long time, and it's always good to get in front of our customers and meet them and hear their stories. And with that, I'd like to introduce Donald. And Donald, if you can get a short introduction.
Hello, I'm Donald Stewart. I'm the Performance Test Engineering Lead at RSA Group. I've just started at RSA Group from the September 2022. I've been working with IT for the past 40 odd years, specifically within performance engineering within the past 25 years. So I have experienced many other tools, but specifically working with LoadRunner in the various versions.
Thanks for that, Donald. Yeah, I think we've known each other quite a long time, and we've always crossed over in different parts of the world or different organizations. And it's really good to see you here speaking. And I mean, if we go back a little bit in history, I mean, I think you've been with the LoadRunner tools right from the old Mercury days. Maybe would you give a quick recap of how long you've been around those tools?
I remember going back down to Cardiff when Mercury first came to UK in the late 1990s, and also going over to Israel in the early 2000s for meeting the team over there, which was exceptionally fun and really exciting. So I've been with LoadRunner in using the LoadRunner tool in the variety of the various employments I've been with for, goodness me, you're talking 1994, yes, the late 1990s, the late 1990s onward.
Wow, yeah.
So
you've seen the tools evolve and rebrand and land where they are today, and I'm sure it's very exciting to see that
Yes, and every time there's a new version, a new patch, a new protocol, it's been great to actually be involved with that. And it was when Mercury was purchased by HP in the 2011-12 period, I got further involved in the team when Shane was the product manager in San Francisco, and also with Yair over in Haifa. So I got really involved in the actual tooling, and was involved into a small extent to the development of the Stormrunner when that first came out.
All right, that's good to hear. And as you'll be pleased to know, and you're probably well aware, we still have those types of early access programs and customer design partnerships as well when we're looking to bring out new protocols and new technology. It's definitely good that you were part of the first wave of that, and we've continued that all these years later, which is nice. Okay, I'll go on to maybe my first question. I think you've talked already a little bit about yourself and how long you've been around our products. Would you mind giving a quick introduction about your company at the moment and some of the challenges that they have around making sure that everything's up, available, performant, and
Yeah,
some of the things that you're doing to make sure that that stays that way?
well, we have introduced a testing framework showing all the guardrails and processes
Mm-hmm.
for functional and non-functional and DR, and for cyber testing, all
Mm-hmm.
within the one framework, and has different teams involved within the test team. And I'm part of
Mm-hmm.
the Test Center of Excellence team, which has an architect, the head of test, and myself, who lead off the framework. We've created the framework, and we update the framework. We have a best practices coming in every 2 weeks, which updates any sort of uh, areas where we require we've got offshore and onshore teams, test teams within
Mm-hmm.
the RSA group, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to actually make sure that everyone is following the protocols laid down in the framework. It's very
Mm-hmm.
important that we do that.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of a selfish question, just for me to understand a little bit. How do you deal with when your testers want to bring in an open source tool or use something that they're familiar with? Do you allow that, or do you say it's not part of the framework because LoadRunner does things better? How would you deal with that type of scenario?
I would deal with that scenario as to how would they actually manage the actual test uh, life cycle, the performance test life
Hmm.
cycle. And
Hmm.
if they cannot produce a coherent plan where all the areas of the application testing, performance testing, are involved, say like they've got a tool that can do a particular area of the performance test,
Hmm.
but can't do other areas, then I look at that and I say, well, that looks fine. But I want to see if that performance test can be actually executed on time. And that means I need things like support. Do you have that
Hmm.
support? If it's open source, you may not
Hmm.
have that support. You may have a forum type support. But if I want
Hmm.
a resolution done in a 48-hour time span, this will not happen. So therefore, I will not push that forward, because cost is not the only area when performance testing. Quality as a finance, as an insurance industry, which determines we're audited very uh, precisely. We need to bring forward the quality of the performance test. And that means that we use LoadRunner because it has all the areas, all the components that we require for testing.
Yeah, and that's what we see with lots of our customers. we see that they have embraced open source because it's maybe good enough for a specific piece of testing. But there's a lot of hidden costs that they don't know about. And one of those would be
Yeah.
support, because maybe it's down to the forums or community, or I call it hobbyist support, because you're waiting on someone to pick up the mantra to try and solve that. And yeah,
Yes, and another thing, David, is the fact that
mhm,
if we are using multiple applications with multiple protocols,
mhm,
then having an open source tool that has either just the one protocol doesn't fit with the systems. We have web systems as well, but we
mhm,
have mixture of systems, mixture of multi-protocol systems. Therefore, I need a tool that can cope with all these, which LoadRunner
mhm.
does well.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that's one of the strengths. A lot of the open source tools, there may be some of the web or the lightweight protocols, whereas we have, I think, 50 plus protocols. And I mean, in fact, every release or every second release, we're bringing out a new protocol. I think we did three in 2023 alone, and I know this year we have a couple also queued up. So yeah, I think the open source community, it's good for certain things, and that's why, to be fair, we embrace it. I mean, we don't say that you can't run them. In fact, you can actually run them natively in LoadRunner and then get the additional benefits around our analysis engine and all of the additional capabilities that we had. I know, looking at my questions and what I want to ask you, I mean, I know that you guys are heavy TrueClient users, and you have been for quite a time. And really just want to just ask your input and your view about the overall benefits and why you're really using TrueClient as a protocol.
Well, because as being an event driven, it gives a sort of the effort. If a user clicks on a sort of a link,
Mhm,
that's what gets rendered and consumed as a resource and
mhm,
subsequently displayed, and therefore it's clear and
mhm,
and it's easy for the actual the tester to verify. Uh, Also, because of the fact of the TrueClient being a low code protocol,
mhm,
there are also the advantages that the skill set doesn't need to be as high as, say, something with Citrix or Oracle
mhm. Yeah.
type of usage. Uh, Functionally, it's different from HTTP and web in the sort of
Mhm,
area where it's a lower level. It simulates a lower level traffic. TC runs on an actual browser, and that means you can get a measurement of the processes within the HTTP rather than
mhm,
having not having that process. But it does have limitations in the respect that
mhm,
that footprint, because you're running that footprint, I think open text themselves, they have a clean browser user may well run from memory footprint from about 60 to 130, uh,
mhm,
which is a heavy usage. And from a sort of a CPU core, single core, you're looking from 3 to maybe 30%. Now, I understand that you have a program, I'm not too sure if it's coming out this year, to lower the footprint of the TrueClient. That would be exceptional. That would be a really good way to actually do that.
yeah.
I'm not too sure if
Uh,
this is true.
Well, yeah, you are right. So, I mean, true client, the footprint is always going to be a little bit higher than a standard web user. I mean, we all know every time we upgrade our browser and we run a couple of tabs, we see the memory get slowly increase. I mean, every browser version does usually increase. And the reason that happens for us as well, because we have to take some of that browser, we have to take stuff out, we have to put our own stuff in, put our own wrappers around it, and then we
Yes.
have to embed that in our protocol. So we are looking to ways to optimize that so that users can produce more virtual users from that load generator. That's one aspect. We are working on the evolution of TrueClient, where we're looking at some stage to probably decouple the browser that's embedded there, and then we can orchestrate what's on your desktop. So again,
Yes.
you can have the choice that you want. You can have the security you want because it'll always be the latest and greatest. So what we do at the moment is we sort of ask customers to use a blend of true client and also some web if it's possible. Now, it's not always possible because we know there's correlation issues and there's dynamic data. But the true client, as you say, you hit on all the benefits there. Sometimes
Yeah,
any
I
persona
think
can
that's
create
what you need to actually look at as well. See that autocorrelation. Autocorrelation is a big benefit for the actual true client as well.
Mhm,
Now, with that, we get so much relief from actually the debugging uh,
mhm,
instance when you're running that test. So it's a great relief and a great boon for the actual
mhm.
performance test when we're scripting and debugging that actual scenario.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we find with a lot of our customers. They really like the simplicity of that, and the way we say it is
Correct.
we have a tool or something for every persona. If you want to be a developer and you want to build in your IDE, then we have LoadRunner Developer. If you want to be pure scripting and building things from scratch, you can use VueGen and you can build those. But maybe you have analysts or maybe people that aren't developers or testers, and that's where TrueClient comes into its own because you basically record your flow like you were as a normal business user. You don't need to know the scripting or the underlying engine, and it's a really powerful technology, and I think it's one that sort of differentiates us from a lot of our competition.
Exactly. And there's very few, if any, other uh, performance test tools which gives the full benefit of the true client
Mm-hmm.
through the different variable Ajax, with the different methodologies behind that. So I would say yes every time. And there's also another reason for that, and
Mm-hmm.
I touched on that earlier about skill set, in
Mm-hmm.
that having true client makes it easier for not beginners but uh,
Mm-hmm.
entry level performance testers to actually utilize the actual application, and therefore that is a good training process. Now,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to come in and say that this is just what we should use, but
Yeah.
with the actual your tools that you have, the sample tooling, uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good way to actually learn. So therefore, it's not, because not everyone you're bringing into your team
Mm-hmm.
has the full skill set that's required for a performance tester. They're expensive as it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it probably increases your onboarding or speeds up your onboarding process. It probably gets you to test quicker rather than having someone sit through a 4 week intensive training course about looking at APIs and working out syntax and so on.
correct. That's very much the issue that we're looking for when we're looking for that. As I said before, quality is a main issue, but that
Mm-hmm.
always, cost is always behind that. Pushing, I'm always
Yeah.
getting pushed. You
Yeah.
understand yourself, David, coming from a
Mm-hmm.
performance testing background. It's now performance testers during the testing life cycle. We're almost at the
Mm-hmm.
very end, the non-functional end, and we're
Yeah.
always getting squeezed as to the regard to the timing of the actual implementation and the execution and the reporting of the actual performance test. It's
Yeah,
always
and
getting
and it probably segues on to the next question I wanted to ask you. I mean, it was really about the impact of using LoadRunner or TrueClient around increasing overall efficiency or productivity in terms of the testing of the team. I mean, is there something you could quantify to say, save me 20 or 30, 40% of our time or quicker
I
to
would say
market?
there's a saving in at least about 30%, if not more, of
Mhm,
the actual testing time because of the tools we're using, because of LoadRunner we're using. We're using both
mhm,
professional uh, and cloud for
mhm,
the for various areas, but now for the advantages of say with the cloud, we've got the
mhm,
advantages with the offshore teams that they can actually utilize the cloud tool, and we don't need to worry about additional cost, additional protocols within that. They can see the actual process. They can actually get to the application under test through cloud from offshore, and that is a big boon. That's something which we rely on as a means of producing performance tests at a lower time period or risk that we would expect to see in the future.
Yeah, and also from that, you could probably test user experience from different regions, because you could spin up load generators from different geolocations. So you could effectively test that type of end user experience from anywhere also.
Exactly. Now, we don't have to we're not reliant on one area, so it would be different regions. We can spin up load generators in different regions to connect to the controllers and execute the actual test as well. So we're saving time. One of the biggest areas in testing, performance testing, is environmental builds and things like that. Now, you know yourself that making sure that the environment, the performance testing environment that you're going to have, is set and configured to how you wish the tool to be utilized. So you've got firewalls, you've got configuration and settings, you've got account settings. All these areas have got to be lined up, and that takes time. Having something like this on the cloud reduces that time period considerably.
Yeah, especially if you don't need to have even do the provisioning of this, you don't need to do the hosting and the maintenance. I mean, that is the big beauty of LoadRunner Cloud. We take away all of that headache, and we do the support and the provisioning, the patching, the updating. And I mean, it's a security conscious world, and I think you did talk about it earlier on, about when you were talking about why you don't really entertain any of the open source, because security is one of those things. And if we cast our mind back to some of the things that happened last year, I mean, everybody had security vulnerabilities, and it's one of our mandates that as soon as we detect that, we get working on that, and we push that right the whole way through every supported product line that we have. Yeah. So I can really see.
That's in a position like we are in the insurance industry. Security is of the utmost importance, and it can't be stated any more than that. It's we're dealing with people's lives and monies, things like that. We cannot allow anything to be unsecure. And again, you're talking about an open source where there is a possibility that something could be slipped in.
Yeah, and we're mandated by our own laws and regulations that if something comes in and it's a safe one, then we have X amount of days to fix that, and then we'll go and do that. And you know, I mean, you've been around a long time, and you touched about the good support we have, our release cadence, how often we patch, and yeah, that's not going away. In fact, it'll probably increase as we keep pushing out more and more builds. We'll make sure that we support our customers. And one of the other questions I wanted to ask was, in what way does LoadRunner support organizations' long-term goals and strategic initiatives in terms of how you measure those objectives and some of the things you'd like to see from us?
Well, I would like to see the performance life cycle and bringing that down into and incorporating LoadRunner within that performance life cycle, from at least from the two main areas that we're using LoadRunner with, the cloud and professional. Whether I'm not too sure what the situation is with Intact. Intact is a parent group, and I would imagine that for the future there will be sort of cross processes we'll be following the parent group. But at the present moment, we are running as UK RSA UK, and it's a separate group. But I could foresee in the future that Intact will have a look at this and say, well, hold on, what are your practices? Can we incorporate in the parent company? That is something that I foresee for the future, but at the moment, no. It's based within the actual testing framework that we have at RSA UK.
Yeah, and I mean, you did touch on it. I know you use some of our suite, and we go to market as a family. The good thing is that all of the family is underpinned by the common technology, so they're all underpinned by our protocols, by our ViewGen and our scripting engine, by our load generators. So we'll continue the investment in those, and as a byproduct of that, all of the family will inherit that. Now, some things we will add additional capabilities because it's more suitable to cloud or it's more suitable to enterprise. And this year alone, I mean, we've just released recently 24.1. We have another number of releases this year, and things are going to be going. Yeah, we're going to increase our speed this year, and it's going to be an exciting year for load runner customers.
Yeah. And when it's an exciting year for you, it's an exciting year for me as well, because what I see is I can actually use the tool in a better and a more sustained manner. So that's when I do that, when I see these things, and this is why I'm involved with you today, David, is because I want to be involved within the whole life cycle of the tool, so that I can get the benefit, the true benefit from the tool, having more detailed interaction with other people, other performance engineers who use the load runner or the suite of applications, and who interact with each other. We interact at forums and meetings, and everyone has thoughts and processes on how to actually implement areas of tests which they have done. And one of the great areas is coming together and actually giving a best practice issues. No, there's a great document from Scott Moore on True Client. So, and he, not only him, but he also brought together another four or five other engineers to implement that there. And that was like, that's the kind of thing which we see. People are actually are happy to share the knowledge of Roadrunner. But it's a family type of experience.
Yeah, and that's what we're going for. I mean, we do have means where we interact with our customers. We try and get our customer advisory boards up and running. We have a very active community, and in fact, if you look at our community.macrofocus.com, we have a public backlog where we actually have our backlog there for customers to actually look at, to upvote. If there's something missing, please log it. And I mean, I want full transparency. We want things that customers want the most to ripple to the top, and then that'll feed a future backlog. So I'd encourage you and your users and all of our customers to actually go and check that out as well.
Yes, and I'm a regular, regularly moan and put forward areas and questions for support within the actual forum, the community forum. It's to actually to talk to people and to actually meet, and we're talking about a performance issue or a performance result, and when it gets when we get the answers back, everybody's involved and thankful for that. So it brings people together.
It does. And I mean, if you or another person has run into that, it's probably common that it's going to happen to other people, or
yeah, definitely. If someone's done it once and someone else has it, there are a lot more common issues throughout the actual area of whatever protocol is being used.
Agree. So maybe, I know we're getting close to the time. If maybe I'll leave you with this. If you had three things you'd like to see this year make it into the products, what would be your wish list?
Wish list would be reducing the production of the footprint of TC. I doubt that will happen to a great extent.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to see is the
Mm-hmm.
support being less siloed than
Mm-hmm.
it is at the moment. So when you've got the differing teams when you put in a request, I would like to see the support integrated slightly, and so that I can get transparency of the requests which I'm entering. For the new updates, I'll be excited to see what the actual the new patches for 24 will look like, and what's actually coming behind them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, three good points. I mean, I don't think there's ever a conversation that we have with the customer who uses TrueClan that doesn't want a lighter footprint. I mean, that is always a big ask. And we are working, I touched on it, we have the evolution of our current product, TC 1.0, and then we're looking at ways to make sure we give customers more choice and flexibility. So it'll always be something we'll work on. We also have the ability to convert some TrueClan scripts to web scripts, which again can lighten the footprint. Customers would probably like us to convert it to DevWeb, which is our lightest protocol, which we can
Right.
probably get thousands of users.
You could use both the DevWeb and the TrueClan. But there was one more thing that I forgot, David. That was that what I was saying was that if we had, and we probably do, but we have GitHub. I know some of the guys do have GitHub snippet code libraries. I've got one within RSA that I use for training, but also for increased speed of scripting. But I would like to see more of that pushed out from open text, because I see a lot of code snippets that you've got them in your help, your functional help. That's fine, but really good code snippets from each individual protocols, that I think would be a great boon, and I would like to see that.
And that is a good idea, and one we've heard from lots of customers that they would like to see more working examples in our. They'd like to see more working examples in our help files, make them maybe more interactive, things like that.
Yeah, because know what that does? That speeds up the actual process of the test, and it actually gives people training, in-depth training in that. So I would, whatever you say about that, push that forward.
Yeah, that is one. And what we're also looking to do is build a new video or resource library where we basically do quick start guides, especially for stuff like Citrix, Oracle Forms, SAP, where they're quite hard to hit the ground running. So that is an area that we're going to promote. And probably lastly on that area is it's an AI era. Everybody's wanting AI pushed into their products.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the questions, but I'm wondering, what are you going to do with LoadRunner? Because everyone is implementing some sort of generative AI.
They are. They are.
It will come down that you have to do something there as well.
Well, we will. I mean, we've already started lots of our research areas. In fact, some are more advanced than others. But what we've sort of did is we've started looking at the use cases. We don't want to put AI in to say we have a checkbox and we support AI. We want to put it in for a use case that solves a particular problem that our users or engineers are having. So we're looking at probably four broad areas across our tooling. We're looking at scripting, we're looking at modeling, execution, and lab management. We're looking at analysis, because when the tests are done, how do you get to the root cause as quick as you can? And then we're obviously going to put something in about self-learning, troubleshooting, some sort of helper type bot or assistant. And for each of those, we're going to look at things like smart script generation, test correlation, smart protocols, test data generation, then helpers to maybe to make you get to the right amount of lab that you need for a certain capacity of test.
Yeah,
So you
that is it.
can.
Yeah, you can get the actual. You've got the footprint quickly and easily. There's one other thing that I wanted to
Exactly.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
to mention that with all
Mm-hmm.
the data that you have, say with I've got from a performance test, one of the
Mm-hmm.
areas that I used to use with an old application, but I used it for modeling, and
Mm-hmm.
CA bought over the application many years
Mm-hmm.
ago. One of the tools I would like to bring, I'm not too sure. It's probably out with the testing suite,
Mm-hmm.
but it's adding modeling. It's too much to ask. It would be.
Well,
It would be.
I mean, we have the idea exchange. Yeah, I'm sure if you have had that request, lots of customers, but that is areas that we want to work out on how to take production data in and how to convert that synthetic data
Convert
into
that
real
synthetic
tests.
data, because I used
Yeah.
to use this previously with load runner
Mm-hmm.
data, and it
Yeah.
was exceptional. But the tool, uh, CA, they
Yeah.
debunked it when they bought the tool, and I'm not too sure if you used it. Uh,
But
I can't
that
remember.
is an area. It is an area of interest because it's one that our customers want because you
I
want to
think
get
it'd
a
be an area where you've
test.
got a market and possibility there, because there's no one else that actually uses that as a present addition to the tool or to the suite family.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I remember years ago. Also, there's one other wing. David, every time I'm going
Mhm.
to finish, I add something else. Uh, was the emulation. Now I know we've got the emulation added to that, but what we
Mhm.
don't do, that's the emulation for network emulation for the application.
Mhm.
I was interested in pulling statistics from the actual network devices. Now
Mhm.
that I was involved with that with Jeff Patino. Remember Jeff
Mhm. Yeah.
from was it Illinois? And we tried to push something. This is a way back in 2013, 12, 13. And
Mhm.
we tried to push an addition onto the Roadrunner suite, which would extract from network devices network
Mhm.
throughput,
Mhm.
and not just from the application network layer, but from the actual device network layer. That was an idea that it got poo-pooed,
Mhm.
but
Mhm. Yeah, I
I,
mean, we do have, well, the other part of the other layer of that where we have our network virtualization where you can build a profile for a certain region and you can emulate different network conditions.
yeah,
What we're actually seeing now is that sort of, I think, has evolved into the sort of resiliency and chaos platforms that we see now, where you can take things down or you can do DNS black holes. And I mean, that's one of the trends that we see this year. And that's why recently we've created two vendor integrations, one to Gremlin and the other one to SteadyBit, so that we have a SaaS platform and we have an on-premise platform. And our customers are doing that. They are simulating those events, not down to the granular layer where they take the metrics from the physical device, but where they simulate some level of something happening or a DNS attack or some sort of black hole.
yes,
And what that does is that expands your performance suite because you just don't test your
exactly.
application under test. You do everything upstream, the network, different connected services. Yeah, and again, it broadens everything that you can test. And the idea is that you make sure that you are resilient and nothing goes
Yes,
down or
that's a very
affects your data.
important point to actually make sure, and we can actually add on to the suite. That would be excellent.
Indeed. Well, I think we probably spoke for 45 minutes, and it's always a pleasure. I mean, me and you could talk all day on these topics, and I'm sure we will again.
Well, thank you both, David and Donald, for kind of getting together and kind of going through a lot of those interview questions because I do feel like everybody watching can really, really take advantage of those answers. But we do have some other questions that we can jump right into. We might only have a little bit of time for a couple, but just starting from the top, um, what are some emerging trends and advancements in Load Runner as well as performance testing as a whole, and how do you see them shaping the future of performance engineering?
Okay, I'll give a quick input from my side. Some of the things that we're seeing is, and I did mention it. I mean, we're seeing lots of people getting on towards chaos and resiliency testing. We're seeing the need for testing more than your application because things are built very differently, and uh, there's a lot more dependencies. So customers, rather than having to script all of this, they can now have a resiliency platform like Gremlin or SteadyBit, and that's why we've
Yeah,
rolled that out.
yeah, and there's a lot more of cloud uh, systems being imported into the actual suites of the various companies. So now you'll find that there's this is going to be an area where that now we're less uh, resilient within the not resilient, sorry, we're less reliant on the actual
Mhm.
on-prem systems as much as now
Yeah.
we're moving to the cloud platforms, and the applications which are going to be updated and tested on these cloud platforms. This is things which are going to be happening on a regular basis. I know it's happening here in RSA as well, so it's happening all around the world.
Great, thank you. Um, I guess this might be a question for you, Donald. How has Load Runner Solutions contributed to reducing time to market for your applications or your software releases?
It has reduced the time to market to a considerable extent to, as I've said previously, at least to about 30% of the actual time taken. Uh, so I want to actually reduce that even further so that for future uh, areas, and that's where the framework comes into it, and then the performance test lifecycle comes into that, the code libraries and the best practices all come into reducing that time period, which will be actually which is costing.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. And then this actually is going to be a David question. How many releases are planned this year? And then also there's another one kind of attached to it, but can you tell us
Mhm.
anything about the most recent release?
Yeah, so we just obviously dropped 24.1 right across the entire family. That's the first major of the year. People will see that that is actually the name or the convention has changed because last year it was 2023 base and then R1, and we were doing that R1, R2 every year. But now with open text, we're on the open text release train, where we're hoping to release every 90 days. Now, we mightn't be able to do a full major release every 90 days, but we did the 24.1, and then within 90 days, we're going to try and release another service pack or hotfix, not just with incremental updates that our customers are asking for, but also small feature enhancements and innovation. And then we'll probably do a 24.3 later in the summer in the third quarter of the year. And then after that, we'll do another update in 90 days. So yeah, it's a fast moving release train. But at least those two big bang major versions with incremental updates 90 days after that release.
Perfect. And then let's do one more question. And this is actually kind of a big one, but what are the open text load runner plans around AI?
Yeah,
Well,
so
I
I
leave
mean,
that for David.
yeah, exactly, and we know what customers want, and we know what we'd heard some of the wish list that Donald has. Yeah, so I mean, as I say, we aren't going to just release AI to say that we have some sort of AI
No,
in there. We've already started it with our Aviator program with Value Edge, and that's going down and resonating very well with customers on that platform. But what we've did as a group within performance engineering, we've been surveying the market, we've been surveying our customers, and we're asking those guys to tell us the areas that they get stuck in. And we all know those areas. It's people are having problems scripting, so we know we need to fix the scripting. And outside of the scripting, the biggest problem outside of that is actually what you do with such a large result file. We don't want customers buried in results files trying to make their own assumptions from that data. So what we're going to do is we've built about 27, 28 use cases. And the idea is that we're going to focus on making scripting easier, making it easier to record those protocols, giving you an assistant to help you create that script or fix that script if there's issues. Then on the flip side of that, whenever you run that script and you have a large data set back, we want to make sure that you get to the root cause analysis if there's something there. So building on the anomaly detection that we already have, looking at
Right.
trending history, looking at smarter dashboards, building benchmark reports, and all of that is going to be sort of created and assisted with our AI. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. We're not quite sure when we'll push out those releases because we want to make sure that we get the use case right and we get the technology right behind that. And then when we have that, our customers will really see this pushed out into the whole family.
So that is all we have time today for questions, but I do want to thank the audience for their great participation. And I do want to thank our amazing speakers again for coming here, having their responses, and just being amazing. So if we weren't able to get to any of the questions that you had put into the box, then we'll respond directly via email. And then also please note as well, a replay of the event will be available on demand shortly. And of course, feel free to invite and share with all of your colleagues. Please stay connected with us at Open Text with our social pages. We have linked here our DevOps Cloud community. We have also linked the communication subscription page as well as our DevOps Cloud LinkedIn page. So we would love to see you there. All of the links are provided. And then also, your opinion matters to us. So you will be prompted to do a short survey at the end of the event. If you could just quickly fill that out, it will really help us with future events and shaping those a little bit better. And also, here are just some important resources that support today's webinar. Please find any of the links. You should be able to open the links via the download when you download the materials from today. And then if you have any trouble, just let us know. And then finally, I want to say thank you again to our audience. Thank you to our speakers. And this concludes our event. And we will see you next time.